Number 6. Drinking caffeine too late. You have probably drank your third or fourth cup of coffee, hoping to get back into that productive zone because you felt like the initial caffeine had already worn off. That feeling is accurate. The buzz is gone, but the caffeine absolutely is not. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine is the chemical that builds up throughout the day and creates your natural drive to sleep. So, caffeine is the chemical that essentially blocks that feeling of sleepiness and drowsiness. But the adenosine keeps stacking up behind the dam, and the caffeine itself has an average half life of 5 to 7 hours. And depending on your metabolism, a cup of coffee at 2 p.m. will still have roughly 5 to 15% still active in your system at midnight. In a 2013 study on the disruptive effects of caffeine, they gave participants 400 milligrams of caffeine 6 hours before bed. Their sleep quality significantly deteriorated, and they are losing over an hour of sleep. So your hard cutoff for drinking anything caffeinated should be 2 p.m. or earlier. Anything after that, you're just being irresponsible and deliberately sabotaging your sleep. Number 5, alcohol consumption before bed. For centuries, we called it the nightcap, a socially accepted norm to winding down, a pharmacological shortcut to sleep. The problem is that it works, but for exactly the wrong reason. Alcohol stimulates gamma aminobutyric acid activity in your brain, sedating your central nervous system and cutting the time it takes to fall asleep. But within a few hours, your liver metabolizes the alcohol into acetaldehyde, a metabolically active compound that is physiologically arousing. Core body temperature rises, wakefulness fragments the back half of your sleep, and your REM sleep collapses, which not only negatively impact the quality of your sleep, but ultimately your overall health. A meta-analysis of 27 studies confirmed that even a low dose of alcohol, roughly 2 standard drinks, produces a statistically significant reduction in REM sleep duration. REM is where your brain processes emotional memories, rehearses newly learned information, and recalibrates stress overnight. Stripping it out doesn't just make you groggy, it leaves unprocessed emotion and impaired mood that rolls over to the next day. You may have fell asleep faster, but that sleep wasn't restorative. Just avoid drinking altogether, but if you must, finish your last drink at least 3 hours before bed to give your liver time to process it. Number 4, accumulating sleep debt. What makes sleep debt so dangerous is how good we are at not noticing it. Research from Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley shows that 10 days of sleeping 6 hours a night produces cognitive impairment equivalent to being awake for 24 hours straight. And throughout that stretch, most people report feeling only slightly tired and some not at all. They were still very functional without any noticeable quality nor loss of output. But the gap between how impaired you actually are and how impaired you feel you are grows wider the longer the debt accumulates. The biology underneath this is devastating. Your brain runs a waste clearance system during deep sleep that physically flushes out proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. Chronic short sleep impairs that process. Sleep-deprived people show 60% greater emotional reactivity to negative stimuli because the rational frontal lobe loses its ability to regulate the emotional brain. Your immune system's natural killer cell activity drops to 70% of normal capacity. Weekend catch-up sleep restores some alertness but fails to recover the metabolic damage, the hormonal disruption, or the immune deficit accumulated through the week. The single most powerful intervention is consistent sleep timing and allocating a non-negotiable minimum of 7 to 8 hours. Any less than that, and you're literally functioning at a maximum limit of 50% of your potential. Number 3, snoring, mouth breathing, and obstructive sleep apnea. Snoring is not harmless. It is your airway signaling distress. cutting off oxygen, triggering a surge of adrenaline and pulling the brain back from deep rest into partial wakefulness throughout the night. You wake up without any memory nor awareness of it. Scientists call this obstructive sleep apnea, and it is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in medicine. They wake exhausted and don't know why. The cardiovascular consequences are among the most alarming in all of sleep research. Data and studies show that sleep apnea increases the risk of heart failure by 140%, stroke by 60%, and coronary heart disease by 30%. Those numbers reflect real, repeated physiological trauma happening nightly, oxygen dropping, the nervous system surging, vessel walls inflamed under sustained pressure. And it is not exclusive to people who are overweight. Jaw structure, tonsil size, and airway anatomy all play a role. And approximately 45% of adults snore occasionally. The American Heart Association now recommends sleep screening as part of standard cardiovascular care. Most people don't know whether they have it because they don't know if they snore. But if you wake up with headaches or feel unrested despite a full night in bed, it doesn't hurt to bring this up to your doctor and get this check. Number 2, heavy or late meals before bed. Your body has a clear operational sequence. It did not evolve to run digestion and deep sleep simultaneously. These are competing metabolic states. When you force them to overlap, it is detrimental to your sleep. A large meal close to bedtime elevates core body temperature through the effect of food processing, which delays the natural temperature drop your brain needs to initiate deep sleep. It significantly raises the risk of acid reflux because high fat and high sugar meals keeps the digestive system active throughout the night. Research consistently links eating within 1 to 3 hours of sleep to lighter sleep stages, more frequent awakenings, and worse overall sleep quality scores. The result many people recognize without connecting the dots is waking up feeling bloated and inflamed, not from sleeping too little, but from what happened in the gut while the body was trying to repair. Digestion slows during deep sleep, food sitting in the gut ferments, and the immune energy that should be running cellular restoration is tied up managing metabolic load instead. So your eating time is relevant and correlated to your sleep. Give your body at least 6 to 8 hours to process your meal before bed, unless you plan to wake up feeling like trash. Number 1, checking your phone right after waking and right before sleeping. Most people sleep next to their phones and treat it as a harmless wind-down companion. It is doing the opposite. The blue light emitted from your screen sits in a wavelength range of 460 to 480 nanometers, which happens to be the exact frequency that specialized receptors in your eyes were built to detect. These receptors evolved to read sunlight. They are extraordinarily good at their job, but they cannot differentiate between a morning sky and your Instagram feed. So they signal your brain's master clock that it is daytime, stay awake, and do not produce melatonin. 2 to 3 hours of evening screen exposure can cut melatonin production by more than 50%, effectively delaying your internal clock by hours. You are not just delaying sleep, you are fragmenting the architecture of it. And the damage is invisible in the moment and cumulative over time. Less deep sleep, weaker memory consolidation, and heightened stress responses the next day. So just avoid any screen time the first 2 hours of waking and 2 hours before bed. The messages and socials will be there regardless of when you check it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to see more.